Hi everyone, it's me. I'm back with another tutorial. Look at that. I'm doing a lot of videos recently. Now that I'm in my new home and my own space, I have more space to do what I would like to do. So this is great. Anyway, I thought I'd come at you. Last video I mentioned to you that we're going to do a soap tutorial, and we're going to do a Castille soap with a little bit of additives to it to make it a little bit more luxurious. Not that a Castille soap isn't already a luxurious. So for those that are new to soap making and not quite sure what a Castille soap is, a Castille soap is 100% olive oil soap. So there's generally not any additional oils in there, just 100% 100% olive oil. It usually cures over a much longer time. They say over 6 months or longer it becomes a more milder and better bar. It's great for very super sensitive skin, great for the face, great for babies even, and all that jazz. It's a great soap to start off with for new beginners because one of the oils is readily accessible in your grocery store. And two, there's not a lot of having to deal with mixing and tracing fast or anything like that. It tends to it tends to slowly trace. Some things that people do are they discount the water so that it doesn't take as long to trace and it doesn't take as long to cure. In this recipe that I'm going to give you, I'm not going to discount the water at all. I'm just going to do it straight as it is. As you can see, there's a lot more bottles here. I am going to be adding additives to it. And some of those additives are going to be the following. So I ran out of vitamin E that I had without the capsules. So I'm using vitamin E capsules, but we'll cut those and use that. I am going to be using castor oil. I don't know if you guys can see that. Castor oil. And the reason why I'm using castor oil is an olive oil or a Castille soap is not very bubbly. It is very, it's more of a creamier lather, you can say. It's not a bubbly lather at all. So I'm adding castor oil to add to the bubbliness. I'm also adding jojoba. So the vitamin E and the jojoba oil is good for the skin. Okay, so that's why I'm adding those. I'm using two types of olive oil. I'm using a pomace grade. Okay, this actually happens to have extra virgin oil in it, but I'm using a pomace grade, so it's not the highest quality olive oil, but it's excellent for soap making. And actually, I'm thinking about switching over to the pomace grade olive oil versus the extra virgin olive oil as my base, and using the extra virgin olive oil as my super fat, which I will go into in a second here. So this is my extra virgin olive oil, and I got a really good deal on this can. Haven't seen that deal again, but I picked a whole bunch up when they had that deal. It was really cheap for this can. It's 2.5 liters. So I have, I think, one more can of this left, of this particular one. We're going to be needing distilled water, okay, and sodium hydroxide, okay. Now, if you're in Canada, as you can see, Can Wax is one of the suppliers here in Canada that you can order from, and Sapphire Blue is another one. They happen to be in Ontario, but nowhere near where I even know where they are. I can't even, they're a few hours and hours away from where I am. Otherwise, I would make the drive up there and save myself the shipping, but I don't know where the heck they are, and I'd rather just pay the shipping because it sounds like it's someplace far, both of them. And they're fairly reasonable price in terms of shipping. Still pricey, but reasonable considering, okay, versus ordering from the US for me. So I'm going to be using essential oils to scent this. I'm not really looking at the benefits of each of these oils right now. I'm just using it more for scent. I'm coming up with a new mix. We'll see how it comes out. So I'm using lime essential oil. I'm using peppermint essential oil, and I'm going to be using basil essential oil. Okay, so that's going to be my essential oils. Now, you don't have to fragrance this at all. Essential oils are really easy to come by if you go to a natural food place. Here in Ontario, we have Bulk Barn. You can get a lot of essential oils there as well. They're really tiny bottles. They're like maybe a quarter mil, but you can use that if you wanted to start off with. I'm going to be using a total of 0.75 mils, so that's 3 bottles right there. I'm going to pause this video for a moment. I'm trying to do laundry at the same time, and I believe the laundry machine has stopped, so I'm just going to put that into the dryer, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry guys, it wasn't stopped. I just can't hear it very well from where I'm at. I'm probably going to go in a minute though. Alright, so we're going to start off by measuring our water and our lye. And I'm doing a 1.5 pound batch. Feel free to use soap calc to adjust the recipe. I do have a tutorial up on how to use soap calc, and I probably will do another one on there in the future. Sorry guys, one moment. Okay, actually let me start by measuring the water. Alright, so this recipe calls for 9.12 ounces of water. So you're going to need distilled water. Okay, only distilled water. Do not use tap water. If you do decide to use tap water, there's a lot of impurities in the tap water that can cause a lot of soda ash on your soap. So I strongly recommend distilled water, or there's a lot of different minerals and stuff like that in tap water that will affect the overall finish of your soap. So definitely get distilled water. This costs like, I don't know, $1.17 or something like that at Walmart. 97 cents at No Frills, something like that. It's not very expensive, and it's a big jug and it lasts a while. Okay, so I did realize I forgot my stick blender on the other side of the kitchen, so I'm just bringing it over. Okay, so I said 9.12 ounces, or just you can do 9.1. Okay, if you want to round it. Perfect. Alright. I'm just going to move these things back over how I had them. So that's my water. Now I'm going to measure out my lye. Because I'm using lye, I'm going to put on my gloves and tear that. And over in my sink I have some cold water, and that's to cool down the lye water. Okay. Normally you would use thermometers to kind of measure out your temperatures between your lye water and your oils. Typically they should be within 10 degrees of each other. My case, I usually soap at room temperature. So olive oil is already at room temperature. I'm going to try and cool down my lye water so that it will get down to room temperature so that I can use it. That's how I soap, and I go by feel. When you're starting out, if you want to, you can definitely use thermometers. Typically, it's between 100 and 110 degrees that you want to soap at. Some people soap at 120, 130. I tend to soap cooler because I like the fact that it gives me, usually, depending on the oils and the fragrances that I'm using, a little bit longer time to work with my soap. So I am going to do room temperature in this case, all right? So for my lye, I'm going to need 3.056 or 3.1 ounces of lye. Hopefully I have enough in here. Otherwise I have to go grab my big bucket. Oops, a little bit too much, I think. Yeah. There you go, 3.1. Some tricks that you can do when working with lye, as you can see, lye is granules, like little grains, or this is the type of lye that I buy. And sometimes you get a lot of static electricity. What you can do is take a dryer sheet and wipe it once around your container that you're going to measure the lye in, and that will help reduce the static electricity that you see here. I didn't do that in this case. You want to be very careful with working with lye. What you need to do is you should wear your gloves, you should wear goggles, but as I already explained in my other video, goggles tend to fall off my face. I have to find a set of goggles that will fit my face a little bit better. because my face is kind of narrow. It's not skinny, but it's narrow and long. So a lot of times they don't stay on my face. A lot of glasses and stuff. So I find it hard buying sunglasses and things like that suit my face because my face is narrow. Anyways, enough about that nonsense. So now what you're going to do is you're always going to add your lye to your water, never the other way around. When you mix the lye to the water, you're going to have a chemical reaction that lets off a lot of heat. If you add it the other way around, you can run into or a situation where you can have a volcano effect. So always, if you remember, the snow falls on the water, not the other way around. Water does not fall in snow. Snow falls on top of the water or on top of the lake. Right? So you're going to put your lye in here. Now it does have some fumes that it lets off. What you can do if you wanted to is you can go underneath your vent, your stove vent, and stir it that way, so that way it takes away the fumes. You can open up a window, you can do it outside. It's cold right now, I'm not going outside, it's winter, and I live in a new development, so there's just pure mud everywhere. So no, I am not going outside to do this. And plus too, there's small animals out that can get into it. So my recommendation is do it in an open area, under your vent, under the open window. If you do it outside, make sure you have a container that can seal very well, so no one can get into it, okay? So the small amount that I'm doing, I tend to hold my container away from me when I'm mixing, and I turn my body away so I'm not breathing in the fumes. So you just want to pour that right into there. Alright, so I'm just going to put that directly into the sink, run some water into that. Alright, so we're just going to stir it, and as I said, I turn away from my container, and you want to stir this until your water goes back clear. As you can see, it's very cloudy. It's going to heat up a lot, and it's going to heat. Usually I think it gets up to 200 degrees or something like that, or 185 to 200 degrees. Excuse me, breathed in the fume. I turned my head. So you just keep mixing this and mixing this. I'm trying to look towards the computer so that you guys can hear me, but it's hard with the fumes, so bear with me while I don't talk and I turn my head. I don't know if you guys can see. I can see in my view, but there's some steam coming off of the container. You guys probably can't see on the computer, but there's definitely steam coming off of this. You might even see my container condensing on the edges there. If you touch it, it's quite hot. The container is quite hot. Now you can use a stainless steel container. They don't recommend using glass because over time that can degrade and break down. I just found these cheap containers at the dollar store, and this is what I use. Dollar store is great for soaping supplies. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But it's up to you. You don't want to use a wooden container, clearly, a wooden bowl or anything like that. I usually mix it in a taller pitcher, like a juice pitcher. But because I'm doing such a small amount, I'm just using this measuring cup here. But you can definitely use a pitcher so that you run less chance of spilling. So I don't know if you guys can see now, it's pretty much clear. Some additives that people add to the lye solution is things like you can add sodium lactate to make your bar harder. You can add sugar to increase the bubbles. You can add silk. You don't have to use distilled water. You can use tea, like green tea. You can use beer. You can use milk. There's so many different things. But for a starter, start with distilled water. And in future, I'll do other videos of other liquids that you can use, because there's different steps you want to take when dealing with those different liquids. All right, so I believe that's nice and clear now and all mixed in. You want to make sure there's no undissolved granules of lye, okay? So I have a sink here with cold water. And I'm just going to let that stay in there to cool off. Okay, so now we're going to measure out our, this container is so old it looks disgusting. Okay, I'm going to measure out my olive oil. So we are going to need 24 ounces or 1.5 pounds of, I'm going to use a pomace grade olive oil. Let me just make sure I'm telling you the right amount. I'm quite sure it's 24 ounces. Yeah, 24 ounces. Perfect. 24 ounces of pomace grade olive oil. Okay, so now I believe I'm going to stop the video right here because I'm going to, which I forgot to do prior to the video, is calculate my additives, which is called the superfat, and I'll go over that in the next segment. So bear with me a moment while I just go change the clothes in the washer, and we'll go on to the next step because I think I heard it go off. All right, I'll be back. Hi everyone, I'm back. Sorry about the choppiness of this video. So I went and I changed my laundry and everything like that, and I calculated, which I forgot to calculate before, my superfats. So let me backtrack a little bit. When you go into soapcalc.net and you're calculating a recipe to use, it automatically defaults to a 5% superfat. Superfat is essentially all the oils left in your soap that is not saponified by the lye solution. Saponification is basically the transformation from the oil that you see here into soap. So there's usually a default, like I said, of 5%, and those are the oils that do not turn into soap. They stay as what they are. So I've left that, but then I usually add an additional amount of superfat, and that usually can vary in the amount that you want to do, depending on what you're looking to do. So in this case, I'm going to be doing a additional 3% superfatting, so a total of 8% superfat for this soap. So those oils, I'm specifically going to add the oils that I want hopefully to be left in the soap. With cold process, there's no guarantee that those will be the oils that are left in the soap after the saponification process. I believe in hot process, you might have a better chance of those oils being the oils left in the soap. But in this case, those are the oils I would like to be my quote-unquote super fat or additional leftover oils after the saponification process. And you'll see when I add it, I'll add it in at the trace stage. Okay, so generally most of those oils should have already been saponified. Okay, so that's where my extra virgin olive oil is going to come in handy. Okay, my vitamin E as well as my jojoba oil. So the recipe is going to be as follows: 0.48 ounces of the extra virgin olive oil. So 0.5 to round it up, okay? Just because of the type of scale I have. It's not as accurate. Alright, so there we have our 0.5. For our jojoba oil, we're going to need 0.24 or 0.2 for rounding purposes. Need to get more jojoba oil. Alright, so 0.2. And then this is where it's going to get a little tricky. I can't find where my teaspoons are packed. Actually, I think I have. Sorry guys for all the noise. I have a new set that I haven't opened yet that my mother bought me for the house. And I think it has teaspoons in here. It does. Good. Sorry about this, guys. I'm not very prepared with this video. I'm trying to do it on the fly. I had a girlfriend come by today just to check out the house, and then the boyfriend said he's coming over. I wasn't expecting him to come over. So I'm doing this at a different time that I had planned on doing it. So I'm not as prepared as I would have liked to have been. So this is my teaspoon. This is where it's going to get tricky for me because I don't have my vitamin E in the liquid form. I just have the capsules. So I'm just going to cut off the end and squeeze this into here, and I'll tell you how many capsules it ends up taking of the size that I have. So far that's 2. This is a much more time-consuming way. I have to order some more from my supplier, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And my area is new. Every time, like when Sears came to deliver the bed, they couldn't find me on Google Maps because the area is so new. It's not in the system yet, or in MapQuest or whatever yet, or those programs. So, and that one's far now for me to drive, but I might just make the drive down there. So that's 4. This looks like it's probably going to take about 8 of these. And I got this on sale at Walmart. Came in a pack of 2. Can't remember how much I paid though, but I know for sure it wasn't much because I'm kind of, as we all know, on the cheaper side of things. So if you don't want to do it this way, get the liquid kind. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have to tell you guys something about me. When I was little, my mom used to make us take cod liver oil capsules. And she said you had to take it because it keeps your skin nice and healthy. Oh, sorry. Keeps your skin nice and healthy and clean and free of acne and all that good stuff. And secretly, I like taking, we used to get the capsule form. I used to like eating the capsules, so I used to eat a lot more than what I was supposed to. I thought the capsules tasted amazing with cod liver oil. And being that she said that, I'm going to research that a bit more. I might just add some cod liver oil to some soap. I think I'm going to need, because I'm not quite there, I'm almost there. I'm going to add another one. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is number 9. One day, if I have enough time, I'm going to sit here and burst all these open into a container. And 10, I think. The last count. You guys can count with me. This should do it. I think I can really get away with another one, but this must be boring for you guys. All right. So if you want to go by weight, what exactly this is, I'll tell you. It's not even registering. So I would say 0.1 ounce is enough. So measuring is, I think, like half, 0.5. So guys, I would say just go with 0.1 ounce as your measurement. Okay, or if you're using capsules like me, it's 2 for, oh, that's a whole one. Oh no, they open back up. That's pretty cool after you squeeze them out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 capsules I used. Okay, so that's my super fat. I'm just going to throw this out. Now, I believe this is still a little damp from my last, when I washed it. Okay, so now we're going to measure out our essential oils, and I'm using a ratio of 0.5 ounces per pound of oils. So I'm doing 3 cents. I'm going to do 0.375 of basil, or 0.4. This may take a while. Okay, 3. 0.4. Okay, that's of basil. And 0.4 as well of lime, or 0.375 if you have a more accurate scale. We need to get more lime, I'm almost out. Oh, the lime smells so freaking awesome. But you guys know I'm a citrus lover. Smells so good already. 0.3. .4. Woo. Just a little bit of lime left. Now we're going to need 0.125 of peppermint, or 0.1. There we go, 0.1. No, ordinarily I would stir this, but I don't have any stir sticks available, guys, because everything's packed in places where I don't know where they are. All right. This now. Okay. So we have all measured out now. If you guys are following along, sorry for such a long tutorial. I have 24 ounces of olive oil, pomace grade olive oil, just room temperature. As you can see, it's quite dark. I have my superfatting oils measured as 0.48 ounces of extra virgin olive oil, 0.24 ounces of jojoba oil, and 1 teaspoon of vitamin E oil, which worked out to be 0.1 ounce or 10 capsules, if that's what you got, of vitamin E. I'm trying to use stuff that you can find locally without needing to go to suppliers if you just are a hobbyist and you're wanting to kind of learn about soap making, okay? Jojoba oil you can get at a natural food store. Sodium hydroxide is a little bit harder, or the lye is hard to get in contact. Here in Canada, it's, I believe it's Home Hardware. If you contact them, they're willing to order in, but you have to order a whole case of 4 big, huge jugs of it. So if you're willing to go that route, you can, but it has to be pure sodium hydroxide, or you can order it from a supplier, okay? And olive oil, you can, either of these, I've picked up at grocery stores, you can pick up. And vitamin E, Walmart. Clearly this is Walmart brand, the Equate, so you can get that at Walmart. So I'm trying, and essential oils you can get at natural food places or stuff like that, no problem. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. We're not playing with colorants today. I will get into some natural colorants with the next tutorial. Currently, they're not at my house. They're at my parents' house. I left them there, so that's why we're not doing that, okay? And you're going to need a mold. So you can use this I just got from the Dollar Tree, which we have here in Canada, right behind my house, actually. You can just get, these are drawer organizers. They came, I think they were 3 in a pack or 2 in a pack for $1.25. You can use Tupperware containers. You can use a cardboard box, line it with some parchment paper or wax paper. Wax paper is, not wax paper, freezer paper. Freezer paper is a little bit harder for us to find here in Toronto. I only found it at one grocery store here. And fortunately, they're across the street. Don't shop in that grocery store because it's quite expensive, but for those of you in the GTA, it's Metro. They do have freezer paper there. I'm not going to line this. I really should. It's going to give me a hell of a time to get this out of here. But I think I'm just going to let it sit in here for a period of time. Okay, so you'll need a mold to put your soaps in. You can also get soap molds at Michael's and stuff like that to use. All right, and then we have our lye solution, which is 9.12 ounces of water and 3.056 ounces of lye, which is in the sink cooling. Let's just check it out. Oh, it's nice and cold. Take that out. All right, so our lye water has sufficiently cooled down. It's almost too cold, but that's okay. Oops, what am I doing? I don't need that yet. So let me plug in this. So guys, you are going to need a stick blender if you want to spend less than half a year stirring this, but you're going to want to invest in a stick blender. They are fairly cheap. If you go to Canadian Tire every once in a while, you find them on sale. I found this is a Betty Crocker one for $10. The only thing I don't like about this one is you can't actually take it apart. That's what I don't like about it. But Walmart, but just check around. Canadian Tire always has a sale. Just keep, if you're in Ontario, or if you're in, yeah, if you're in Ontario, check Canadian Tire. I don't think Canadian Tire is across the country. But if you're definitely in Ontario, you can definitely find it if you look. Okay? So we're going to start by adding our lye to our oils. And always add your lye to your oils. I tend to reduce the effects of bubbles. I tend to, as I showed in my other video, I tend to pour the lye against my spatula there so it doesn't bubble in. We're going to blend this until it gets to a trace. And when it gets to trace, we're going to add in our superfatting oils, and then we're going to add in our essential oils. During this process, the lye is going to heat the oils up, okay? And then you're going to cover it with plastic wrap, cover it over with some towels, and let it go to bed. And then in 24 hours, we will unmold it. In this case, because it's olive oil soap, sometimes it might take a little bit longer. It's a little bit softer initially, but it does end up being a very hard bar. All right, so let's start by, let's see if I can do this in a way that you can see. No, I can't. I'm right-handed, and I'm going to pour along my spatula here so it doesn't splash into it. It just slowly drips into it. That way we reduce bubbles and you don't splash yourself with lye, because you definitely don't want to splash yourself with lye. Take every precaution necessary. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's starting to kind of change color a little bit at the bottom where the lye is kind of dropping in. Perfect. Into the sink. put cold water in that. So now I'm just going to kind of gently stir this with my spatula. Do you see how it's getting cloudy now? That's the saponification process occurring. Now, because I'm using pomace grade olive oil tends to trace faster. So what I mean by trace is when you are mixing your soap and you're blending it, if you were to take your spatula and drip it over the top surface of the soap, you will see the trails of the soap on the surface. You'll see like little tails from exactly where the soap landed. That is called trace. There is different stages. There's emulsification, which you really want to do if you're trying to blend a lot of colors. You want to just bring your soap to emulsification. We can go over that in more detail in future videos, but you want to do that so that you can have time to mix all your colors in. Then there's light trace, which is great for when you're doing swirls, and there's medium trace and heavy trace. Medium trace I tend to use when, for example, in this case, when I'm not adding any color or I'm just doing one solid color, I'm not doing anything special. Or heavy trace. Heavy trace is okay, but I find you get more bubbles with that. Medium trace is a good trace to pour at because then you can eliminate bubbles, and it's good for when you're just kind of using one solid color or maybe one or two colors. You're not really doing much with the soap. And there's other examples that will come in the future tutorials. So as you can see, it's getting more and more cloudy, and this is the whole process of saponification. So I'm just going to clean off my spatula. And then okay, my screensaver went off. Sorry, guys. I hope it was recording all that time. I think it was. So anyway, I'm going to use my stick blender now. And you want to go in at an angle, if you can see, to prevent bubbles. And then you want to burp it to release any bubbles that might have got trapped underneath the stick blender. And then you're just going to stir it with the stick blender. So it's going to get loud. Turn down your volume. Do you see the color? It's changed. It's gone like white now. Now you're emulsified when you can't see any oils on your surface. So this right now where I'm at is called emulsification because I can no longer see the oils on the surface of my container. And this is when you want to color, and I'll show that in another video. Alright, so I'm going to bring this to a lighter trace. You see it's getting lighter in color. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, but it's getting even whiter in color. Still not at trace. Alright, so this is a light trace. Very, very light. I can just barely see the driplets of my soap from my stick blender on the surface of the soap. Like, I mean just barely. So it's pretty much sinking in. Alright, so I'm going to take this opportunity to add in my superfatting oils. If you remember, this is my extra virgin olive oil, my jojoba oil, and my vitamin E oil. And guys, I forgot my castor oil. Oops. You guys didn't tell me that. So blooper, so castor oil, so it's going to end up being a 9% 9% superfatting versus the 8. So castor oil you can measure in teaspoon, and I'm going to do tablespoon. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of castor oil. Now castor oil can increase the speed of your trace. Now, because I didn't measure any products that aren't for soap making, like I didn't put this into my soap batter, I'm going to wash this and use it. I just use the vitamin E and the castor oil, which is all food grade. And I put that in a separate part of my lye, than where my lye lead is. Oh, I capped it already. So that was a blooper. I forgot my castor oil. Castor oil is for the bubbling. So it's going to work out to be roughly a 9% superfatting. Alright, so by adding those oils, it loosened my trace again. I no longer have that trail that I had. It's emulsified now. So we're going to get back the stick blender and work on that trace. So remember, go in an angle and then burp. See how it changed color now that I'm mixing in those other oils? So always go in at an angle and always remember to burp. So I'm still not at trace. You want to give your stick blender a break in between, especially if you're trying to maintain a soft trace or a light trace for blending, or sorry, for swirling, I'd rather. Still not at trace. I don't know if you guys can hear my washing machine. It sounds like it's going through the rinse cycle. Or not the rinse, the spin. I'm just going to close the basement door. Oh. Check this out. So that's loud. The kitchen is right above where the laundry is. So that's probably, and I have the door open, whereas before I had it closed. So let me just close that door. Be right back, guys. Hopefully that's a little bit better. And I'm still not at a light trace yet. My soap is still very thin. Olive oil soaps or Castille soaps tend to take longer to trace. It's just the pomace grade that speeds up the trace more, but in general it takes a long time. So this is a great recipe to try practicing swirls with, because it gives you a lot more time. And use fragrances or essential oils that you know won't trace quickly or cause your soap to trace quickly if you want to practice swirls. If you want to do layering, this is not the recipe to do. There we go. Now I'm at a light trace. Very light. So when I drop the soap onto the surface of my, or drip this soap from my stick blender onto the surface of my soap, it's barely leaving a mark, but it's dissipating or smoothing out white really quickly. It's almost like cake batter. When your batter is just starting, it's like really thin, how it just kind of, when you swirl your spoon over, it just kind of sits there for a second and then drops back into the batter. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Just barely. So now I'm going to add my essential oils. Oh my goodness. Oh, smells so good. Okay. In it goes. Oh my gosh, guys, it smells so freaking awesome. Now, by adding my essential oils, it's going to cause my trace to loosen up again. I don't know if you guys can see how runny that is, but it is super runny now that I added my essential oils. Sorry. This one is a good one. The basil gives it that herbaliness, the lime gives it that citrus loverness, and the peppermint just sweetens it and cools it off a bit. It's a nice balance. Alright, so in at an angle and down. I have to bring this back to trace. And this time I'm going for a medium trace because I'm going to pour it this time. Now you don't have to add essential oils. If you want it to be unscented, you would skip that last step. You would just keep bringing your soap to a medium trace. And if I can figure out how to show you on my camera, on my laptop, I will definitely do that for you guys. Now the reason too that this takes long to trace is, remember I didn't discount the water. Discounting the water means reducing the total amount of water that you're adding to your solution, basically. So instead of adding 9 ounces, I might have decided to add 7 ounces, for example. And it goes by percentages on the soap calc. Lye concentration is the amount of lye compared to water. It's a little bit different. We'll play around with that when I get a chance to do another tutorial on using soap calc. I want to stress that this recipe is for beginners. Someone with no experience with soap making that would like to do cold process soap making. This is a great starting point, okay? For those who are experienced with soap making, you've probably done this recipe before, or a version of a Castille soap before. So my intentions are each week to build on this base recipe. So next week, if I have time, before the holidays, I haven't done any Christmas shopping yet, I just bought one thing for my son. And possibly the boyfriend. I don't know if actually I will give it to him for Christmas. I haven't picked up the rest of his Christmas gift yet. And my parents, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm stalling. I'll probably do Christmas shopping next week. I'm a last minute shopper. So I'm not going to bore you guys with the stick blending. I will come back when I've reached medium trace, okay? I'll be back. Hi everyone, I'm back. I tried to change the angle of the camera so that you guys can see. I'm now at a medium trace and I'm going to pour. Hopefully I don't spill this, but if you look, do you see when I pick up the stick blender? Do you see the texture it leaves on the top of the soap there? That's a medium trace. That's where you want for pouring, okay? So let me just kind of reposition everything, and I'm causing lots of bubbles when I do that in my soap. Oops. Other things to do, you can do this to kind of get the bubbles to pop. My stick blender is really hot from trying to get this to trace. But that is where you want your soap to be for pouring. I'm just trying to get all the soap off my stick blender. The reason being is, well, these ingredients are not super expensive. They're pretty pricey, but not super. The jojoba oil is extremely pricey when you can get it. It's always out of stock. But you definitely want to make sure that you are getting all your ingredients into your soap mold. The other thing is, it makes it easier for cleanup when you have most of your soap cleaned off your containers and your utensils. Much, much easier for cleanup. Okay. Alright, something tells me I need to grab another container, but I will do that. My hair is in my mouth. I'll do that after. Alright, so now you're just going to pour it into your mold. See, this is a perfect consistency for pouring because you don't get too many bubbles. Alright. And then you can just kind of do this to your container to, if you want a smooth top. Alright, I'm going to run down quickly because I know where those molds are. I'm going to grab a mold. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I'll probably edit this all out. So now I'm going to pour this excess into an extra mold. These are soap molds. I got them from New Directions. No, I didn't. I don't remember where I got them from. I believe New Directions Aromatics have them as well, but I don't remember where I got this from. And I believe Michael's has some lower quality plastic, but they're okay to use as well. Soap mold, you can get them off eBay. You can get them off of many different suppliers. But like I said, you do not have to use a fancy soap mold. You can just use regular everyday items that you can find. In fact, I'm going to be doing some soaps for wedding, and I'm going to be doing like Kim from Essential Soaps and creating a soap mold from cardboard, because I've got tons of cardboard boxes here from packing and moving, so I'm going to be doing that. Alright, that's everything there. Oops. Alright. So that, everybody, is our Castille soap with a few additives. So I will include a copy. I'm going to put myself on camera here. I will include a copy of the recipe down below. But essentially, it's pomace grade olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, jojoba oil, vitamin E oil, castor oil, and we use sodium hydroxide, basil, peppermint, and lime essential oils. This smells So good. Like the first scent you get is the basil, then you get the lime, and then the last thing that you get is the peppermint. But feel free to play with the amounts that you use in terms of the essential oils for fragrance. That's just what I thought I'd experiment with. Oh, it smells so good. But what you're going to do now is you're going to cover it with plastic wrap. I usually cover it with plastic wrap. Some people spray it with rubbing alcohol. I personally don't do that because I find that the first thing you smell initially is the rubbing alcohol, and then you smell and then you smell the rest of the scent. It's supposed to prevent soda ash, but if you cover it appropriately, I find that it minimizes the soda ash. If you don't cover it, you tend to get more soda ash. That's what I found. Soda ash, there's nothing wrong with soda ash. It is just a cosmetic thing. So if you don't like soda ash, you can skim it down or cut it down, file it off your soap. Not file it, but you can use a cheese grater and shave it off your soap. And I've seen some people steam it as well. It's nothing harmful to you. It's just the excess minerals that have surfaced to the top of the soap. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. There's more to come, hopefully soon. All right, I'm going to try and figure out how to edit now. I haven't really been editing too much with this new iMovie program. Those of you guys that have Mac, I have some questions. How do I edit and add special effects? And what programs do you guys use for designing your labels? Because, yeah, I'm having a hard time. hard time. So let me know, put your comments down below. If you guys would like me to do any specific tutorials, let me know. Message me down below or message me in my inbox, and I will try and get some more tutorials up. This has been fun. I'm glad to be back, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Guys, I'm back. I decided to do a little bit of a design on the top of the soap, and you can just use, I just have a wooden chopstick here. You can use a skewer, whatever the case may be, and I'm just going to make some swirls. My soap is still too lightly traced. And that's all I'm doing, just curlicues on the surface of the soap. But because my soap is such a lighter trace, it's kind of sinking down. You could wait till your soap is stiffer, and you can do that. Oh, it smells so good. Sorry guys, but it's other things that you can do. And you can add cosmetic grade glitter to the surface if you want to pretty it up. But this is going to be part of my naturals line. So I'm not really going to be adding any fancy jazz like that on that. But I will be doing some fragrance oils as well. So this batch will be up for sale when it's ready. And I will put up a video letting you guys know, and once my shop reopens. If you would like to reserve a piece now, you can always PM me and I can make sure to reserve it for you. Alright, Mia, I got your message. I got you. It's going to be next week that I'll be taking care of that. Okay? Hope all is well. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.